Tell 'em run it up. I wake up.
And we're back. First time doing a show in a while. Just got back from my New York trip. I haven't done a show lately on through the web, so I like doing these. It's fun, easy. Let me introduce you. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Escape from San Francisco podcast. My guest today has his own podcast called 34. You can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Spotify, uh, wherever you subscribe to podcasts. He has really dope shows. I was on his show before, and he's just a really great person and asks really great, like, interesting questions that make you think, like, really, really make you think. I was surprised by some of the responses I had. I was like, damn, I didn't know I could go that deep. But that being said, he's a really cool person. I'm glad to have him on the show today, and I hope everyone enjoys this episode. How you doing?
Doing good, man. I wanna thank you for having me on. It was great that we connected on my podcast. I'm glad I could be a guest on yours. Just it's one thing I heard about professional podcasters. We're professionals now, but it's all about networking and supporting each other as far as creating that content and getting the word out. So I am really happy to be here, and I'm super curious for your questions for me. Call this episode 34 Answers.
I should. That was a great one. No, I don't have 34 questions for you. That I'll be honest with you about that. But I do want to talk about your journey and how you became a podcaster and how has the experience been for you so far.
For sure, man. Experiences has been bananas. I can't be more gracious and for everyone's support, for all the folks that kind of just said, hell yeah, I'm down to be a guest. Because honestly, that was probably one of the first things I was worried about, or one thing I had to get over when I was starting was just getting over that fear of rejection. Because you just I'm the kind of person who's tried to do a lot of things in my life, and at that point, I had all these thoughts of like, oh, I hope this isn't just another thing people are like, oh, that's just whatever he's doing at the moment. He's not serious about it. So that was one of my fears, and as far as reaching out to people, and I was able to just be like, fuck it. My bad. You could bleep that out. But
No, it's all good. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
yeah. I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna send it to everybody on my list, on my friends list, on Instagram and Facebook, and then people just started saying, yeah, I'm down. And like the more people that said they were down, the more energy I was getting. Um, but yeah, that I would say that's how it's been. That's how it's felt. If you're asking about how it all started, it was actually, I think a lot of what feels so great about it is that it feels like it's all the stuff that's ever happened in my life building up to this moment. And as the more I do the podcast, the more these things just kind of appear to they come into realization. So, for instance, one thing is like I told you about, I had a project I was working on a couple years ago called Hella Hungry, and I can't say that it made any money. People always ask me all the time, "What is it?" It was a clothing line, but since I'm not business minded, I basically was like, I can't call it that. So, uh, it's a project that I worked on. I put a lot of money into it, made a lot of mistakes, bought all this camera gear, spent a lot of time photo editing, um, you know, getting my graphic design on and video editing. For what though? Like at the time, it wasn't really amounting to much, and it got to a point where it really felt like, well, this isn't working out. And it wasn't my first thing. My very first dream was to be a rapper that I held on to for such a long time, and I kind of let go because I was like, I'm not big on self promotion. That's a big thing in hip hop. So I was like, I gotta let that go. That's not my lane. Jumped into Hella Hungry clothing brand, and then kind of faltered, and also was like, maybe this isn't for me. Which the quarantine kind of like had me in those thoughts and in that mindset to be like, what is it that I'm really going to be doing? because I was also 30 years old. Turned 31 this year, and it really felt like, time was running out. I know people say that's not what the case is, but for me, it really felt like, I gotta, if I'm gonna do something, I better like really get serious about it right now. So yeah, like that, because of all the stuff I did for Hella Hungry, I had all this gear and all these skills to kind of like jump into this podcast. And like, yeah, I'm sorry I went on a tangent, but
No worries, no
feel
worries.
free to direct a little more as far as where I could go with it. Uh, but yeah.
No, I mean, you explained it as well as like anyone can. Like that's kind of like how I started the podcast too. I was very nervous and just scared of reaching out and the support from the community, building, from scratch, just starting a Instagram, a podcast Instagram, and meeting so many great people and organizations and being able to network and do things in the community, whether it's outreach events, whether it's going to events where they're selling things, or just going to events where you're just meeting new people for the first time, or actually meeting people in person. And with COVID and everything, I know it's been hard, but this year with everyone getting vaccinations and everything, clearing up a little bit more than it was, meeting people that you met online, just meet them in person, been really cool experience as well. But like you said, getting to that age, like I'm almost 32. I mean 30 years old. I turned 29 this year, and so like I felt that. I know that feeling, like that feeling of just like, oh shit, like it's time is getting shorter, right? Like it feels like you need to like find a lane, or you need to find something that you're trying to do, even though that it's no different than what it was 5 years ago, right? I had that same feeling when I was
Mm.
25. I felt like I need to hurry up and figure out what I'm going to do in my career. But I was just finishing college, and I needed to find out. I needed to get a career. I needed to do this. I needed to do that. And I realized, man, I didn't. I put too much pressure on myself, and I didn't do what I wanted to do. And I just tried to do what I felt was expected of me, and that kind of hurts.
Mm.
I wish I could go back and just not give up on what I was trying to do at that time, and actually did it with more effort and emphasis on knowing that it takes time. You have to put in time to to find success, and I wanted it quick. I wanted quick success, overnight success, and it was never going to happen for me that way. And so I don't try to approach things that way anymore. I try to make sure that if I'm gonna do something, it's gonna be for a while before I even get it. Like before, I had that mindset of like, oh, I could learn this easy. I could do this super fast. It's not going to take me that long, right? Now, real as I'm older now, I hope I'm more mature, but I realize that like things take me a while. Like it just doesn't happen. Like I know it's going to take me a while to get things, and it's frustrating, but like that's just reality. And so I got to see it for what it is, and not to be complacent on just like things that you can't control. So I mean, it's life.
No doubt, man. And honestly, you had talked about 5 years ago, feeling like you already had that feeling inside of you. For me, I can't honestly say that. Like the past decade, from my 20 years old to 30 years old, right? That age range, I felt like being lazy, which I was for all those years. I felt like, going through like different stages, doing different experiences and all that stuff, which I did. Um, but I never felt like I needed to figure it out, or I was like, I'm on my way to figuring it out. And everything that I did, any mistake I was doing, it felt like I call it the rubber band effect, or slingshot theory, where like it was just pulling me further and further back. But as soon as I figured things out, like I know that I would let go and move to something bigger. Which I feel like now I'm kind of in that stage where that's what's happened. Like I pulled myself way back, but now, because for whatever reason I had this irrational belief that I'm gonna make it. So yeah, letting go, and I feel like it's gonna take time. but I'm definitely feel like I'm on the right track with something. And a lot of that comes from people like you and my other guests who come on and tell me, they've had a great experience, and really makes me feel like I'm doing something right. And why stop? I can't let go. So
No,
yeah.
and that sounds like something that I think a lot of people need to reach at a certain point in their life to understand where they're at. I mean, being young, we're still young, right? Even though it don't feel like that sometimes, but we're really young still, and we're barely on like the pinnacle or like the brink of entering a career. Even though we might have been in one for like a few years, we're still at the beginning of it. We're still like new to our craft, whatever it might be. And in your 20s, or at least for me, at least in my early 20s, my head was way too big. I thought I knew it all. I thought I could get anything I needed to do. Like, I thought I could just do it. Like, I had this confidence that was just arrogance, and like not like in a way where like come off like a douchebag or anything like that, but just I just had a confidence in myself that I could just get things done and do what I need to do, or I could accomplish whatever I want to accomplish. Like, I just had like this naive uh mindset, or just like naive uh perception of what life was at the time. And because I kept everywhere I came from, I've been, you know, passing like little small hurdles, and so like I just everything was just like always going like good. Even though I had my failures, I was still making progress in my life from where I came from. And so it wasn't until after I graduated from college that reality set in, and it was like, oh, real world, the real world starts. Like it's not college. Like, college is like you have opportunities to fail over and over and over again, and you're still gonna be okay. We're in the real world. Like, you might not even get an opportunity to go into the field that you want to go into, and that was a reality check for me, especially graduating with a criminal justice degree. I didn't I didn't necessarily do what I intended to do when I set out for college for in the first place, and I'm thankful for that now. But I, at the like, it was depressing. I was like, what the heck? I did everything right. I thought I did. I went to go take all the tests I needed to do to become a probation officer, and I just could not catch a break. I could not just break through and get to a point where I could achieve my goals. And then I realized life doesn't work that way, and things happen for a reason, and you go in different paths. And so my path took a crazy turn for the best, and now I'm doing something else different now. In my 30s, like when I hit my 30s, I'm wondering like, what's the next stage? Like, what's gonna happen next? Like, am I gonna take a different career path? Like this is that's what I like. Like, I'm up for anything, but I'm trying to approach it a different way. I'm trying not to be naive about it at the same time, and realize that I don't have everything figured out, and that I'm not the brightest person ever. So like, I just want to make sure that I learn from everyone and try to do my best to help in the end. And so I kind of learned that from just talking to so many different people, especially doing this podcast. Like, how many podcasts have you done so far?
Um, I think it's been 80. That's been
When did
the
you start?
number. Yeah.
You February, and you done 80
February.
podcasts already?
Yeah, and a lot of them, like we were talking about, is just in the stock. So there are 50 something released on YouTube and Spotify, but the rest are gonna be rolling out in the summer. And yeah, it's in the beginning, man. Like, I think my record for 1 week when I was a week off from work, so I tried to schedule as much as I could before I knew my limits. Before I knew my limits, which is important. But I did 10 in 1 week, as far as like and the max in a day was 4. So I had like back to
You,
back to
you
back
don't
to back
you don't get burned out?
interviews one day. Well, so I would say by the fourth one I was feeling a little burnt out, but I'm if I could space them out more, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't tried to space them out like 2 hours. It was always like 30 minutes in between, which really burnt me out. I do want to try a day where I space them out a little bit more. But Yeah, I would say I could do 2 a day before I start really feeling like, oh man, like here comes another person, which I don't want to feel that way, right? It really does hurt the quality if the energy's not right and my mind's not right. So I was like, I can't try to do 3 in a day anymore. It's at max out at
Man,
2.
you're a legend
So
for that. You're putting in a lot of work. I don't know if if you never hosted your own podcast, even if they're not long, even if they're 10-minute, 15-minute podcast, there's a lot of work that goes into it, especially if you want quality. It's like having to be prepared, having to schedule guests, having to, follow through with it and be in the right state of mind when you're actually doing the podcast, making sure that you're asking relevant questions and having a good conversation. And also, there comes the editing part, getting the file, reducing the file sizes. You're using a crispy ass camera, so like your file sizes are really large. I can already tell if with a 1080p 4K camera, you're gonna have large files, and then having to edit that down, and then to condense that all, and then to put it out there, post it on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it might be. There's a lot of work in just that, and so damn, that's what's up. That's you're grinding. Um, and to do 80 podcasts, you must have learned like a lot, like how to do it and learned a lot by yourself and how to become a better like interviewer.
yeah, man. I mean, as far as the things I've learned, being a better interviewer, I think for me, I've always kind of been a questioning person. So that help that kind of flows with my natural state. Just asking questions. I think I have a lot of ums. I have a lot of knows and all the fillers still because I am an overthinker. So if there's ever like a point where I'm like, then I'll be like, just to get my mind rolling. So that still happens, right
I don't
there.
even edit those out
But
anymore because I'm just like that's just part of the way I talk. I used to edit all those out because I was so self conscious about it, but I didn't even care anymore.
dude, so I was self conscious too, but I listen to a lot of radio hosts and podcasts and stuff. So I hear them say and I'm like, if they're not tripping, why should I be tripping? It's a little more natural, but I can also tell like when it gets a little too much. Like for me, I listen back to my podcast, I count them, and then honestly, I want my I got to find out which guest is cool. But the next time a guest comes on, I have to be like, yo, if I say or anything, just like make a clap or something, just so it's like a penalty for me, and it gets stuck in my head not to do it just because I think, professional level, you want to get up there, you have to kind of work on the fillers. Not all the time, but for me, if you if you listen to my podcast, I feel like I do it way too much, and I need to switch up. But you asked about learning lessons. Yeah, man, definitely got a bunch doing it over time, and as far as like right now, one of the things is I think you've seen my backdrop before. It was a bunch of 34s. And then now it's like a little more cleaned up. It has my logo and has extra stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, do I go back and re-edit those old ones? Because I could, and it'd be a lot more uniform. Or like be the lazy me is like, yeah, I'll just leave them, and it kind of shows growth, from what episodes used to be like to what they are now. It's a little more organic that way. I'm unsure what to do, but right now I'm sticking to my gut and just letting it be something that shows growth, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's kind of like my philosophy with stuff where I think I could do something better, but I've already released an episode, and I'm like, do I really need to fix that one just so it can keep up with the new ones, or just worry about the next episode, add that feature or add that extra effect on that next one, and keep it moving. So I'm really, which could be a bad thing, but I'm trusting my gut with a lot of these decisions. I'm not, I didn't start off as professional at the moment. I don't really have a mentor, but so everything's been like a gut feeling and of how to do things, which is a good and bad thing. But it's working out for me. As far as editing, I would say editing is the longest part of my process. Uh, from recording to getting it on YouTube, easy. From recording to getting it on IGTV, and now I'm focusing on getting it to like that. Try to make it digestible in that portrait size because that's what they tell you to do. That is taking a long time, and I got to get my flow with it. But right now at this moment, it takes me about maybe 30 minutes per per episode, and I'm trying to get that down to like 15. But yeah, that's
that's the only thing
process right
like
now.
with when you're editing and trying to put it to certain platforms. Like YouTube is really easy, simplistic um, like website where you're able to like just upload it to it and it'll take care of it from there. You don't have to really worry about it too much. On Instagram, you have to worry about the file size. You can't have anything larger than 3.6 gigabytes. You have to make sure that it's within the framing, if you want to put it that way, however you want to do it. And so I do notice that like getting engagement on Instagram, like it really depends on the time of day and stuff. Like where if you release it too early in the morning, you might not get seen by people and just get recycled out. If you release it too late in the day, same thing. Just all about finding that sweet spot for you, what works and stuff, and being able to get guests to repost it for you and stuff like that, because that really helps. Because there are people that follow them to see like, oh, they were on a podcast, maybe I'll listen to it, because it takes a lot of effort to get things out there and noticed and stuff. And so sometimes I'll give videos that like get seen by a lot of people. Sometimes I hardly get any views, and so it's just to stay confident in it and be okay with the work you've done. At the end of the day, I don't do it for all that. I do it because I like it and I enjoy it, and I want people to enjoy it as well. So if 5 people see it or 100 people see it, it doesn't matter to me as long as someone gets some enjoyment out of it. And so that's where I'm at the moment. But I would like to get more engagement and being able to take it to a next level or take it to like a higher level, because I feel like that's that'd be really that's like the ultimate goal for, I guess, for podcasters to get to that point where you have a growing community that's like supportive of your podcast and stuff, and it becomes like something they look forward to listening to, or who's the next guest going to be, or whatever might, if you put out merchandise, if they would like to support your channel that way and they'll buy merchandise or whatever it might be. So those are like ideas or things I think about, in the future. Right now I'm doing all kinds of things, so I'm not really hyper focused on that. I just wanted to build community, and I didn't know that at the time when I was started the podcast. But as it's grown and as I've been doing this since October, I realized that yes, this is exactly what I wanted, was to build community and build friendships and grow from there. It's hard to grow on social media. It's hard. I have a hard time growing on YouTube. I have a hard time growing on all of them, and so it's like sometimes it becomes like I don't even want to do. You don't want to even put in the work because you're just like, I did all that work and not really anything get seen or whatever it might be, and so you're just like, is it even worth it anymore? Like, should I change it up? Should I change the days I release? Should I, whatever it might be? But at the end of the day, you just gotta keep working on your workflow, and being able to just make high quality content. And that's what I'm trying to focus on. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm not trying to focus on like the quantity so much, but just the quality of it, and making sure people are able to digest it and like what they see. Like something where it comes off where it engages the viewer and it wants them to click on more, or even eventually ask questions. Or that's my whole goal, is to get people to like reach out. And I haven't got that as much as I would like, but that's my goal, is to get people to reach out and ask more questions. What about you?
Interesting. Like, my bad. I was actually going to ask you. You wanted people to engage like more with you and ask questions to contribute to your podcast, or just more questions to get
I would
to
love
know the
for more
podcast?
engagement, like on certain videos, and
Mhm.
just ask, just whatever, just feedback. I would love. I see people view it. I just would love to see, what they think of it, good or bad. I haven't had. Luckily, I haven't had any like
Mhm.
criticism or anything like that yet. But I know it has to be. So like, I would love for someone, if they didn't find they didn't like what they're seeing or whatever, I would love to just let me know like the reason why or just what part and stuff because I want to be able to become better at this, and I can't become better if I don't have that sort of criticism. Not in a mean, rude, coming off type of way, but like in a way where it's just valid criticism to whatever I'm trying to do. Because no one's perfect, and I want to make sure that I'm able to put the best quality out there, and in a way where everyone can enjoy it. And I try to be fair when I do my podcast and stuff, and I just try to be myself. I'm not trying to do anything other. If someone doesn't like it, I mean, I'll try to be better. I mean, I'll try to be better at certain things, but at the same
That's
time,
all
I don't
good.
know
That's
if I'm doing that yet. So that's kind of hard. It's like, am I doing good, or is it just like no one really cares? Because people are just not paying attention.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think a lot of it is awareness. Like, people don't, not enough people know about your podcast. I think
Mhm.
eventually at some point you're going to want to think about promotion, right? And having the algorithms out there, if you pay for it, will go into your favor a little bit. I know that's how a lot of folks do it. For me, as far as engagement and viewers and all that stuff, I really try not to look at the numbers at all, which is really hard because I still do once a day at least, just to see if anybody like viewed it or downloaded or subscribed. I do, and I hate it. That's something I need to work on as far as because I know in my heart it's not about that stuff for me. Um, like of course I would want this to hopefully like self-sustain my lifestyle, but if it doesn't, it's still something I would want to do just because I think of you know life and stuff as trying to give back, right? And the past 20, not 20, past 10 years of like failure for me was because I wasn't giving back and I wasn't doing anything for the people, even though I've been telling myself like that's what I'm about, that's what I want to do, but I had no action towards it. This podcast is going to be that thing for me because I feel like for me there are reasons why I do it for myself, but for the most part, it's for everybody else. Like in my mind, what keeps me going if nobody watches is that I think of it as like this is something that me and this person have a connection over with. Like, and for me, it's I try to make it all about them for the most part, unless they're struggling with the questions. That's when I'll kind of like, give my answer a little bit so they can see that how much to open up space.
Mhm.
I guess that's an interview skill. Not sure, but that's one thing that I try to do. But I want the episode to be about them, for, if anything. And so if that happens, then now they have like this video diary of like somebody chatting up with them, and it's a little time capsule. Like I think I mentioned to you before on my podcast, but yeah, it's really for them. That's what I enjoy about it. It doesn't feel like me trying to be a rapper, which I felt like is very ego driven. Me creating a clothing line, which I didn't intended it. I wanted to be a message, but it ended up being a part of my ego as well, just because I was just associated with it, and people thinking I'm like, oh, you guys really love it, which I didn't like either. But 34 questions in my mind, and I can feel secure and comfortable moving forward in my life, is for other people, and I don't necessarily need to get paid for it because it's what I love to do. So yeah, I want to, but it's not gonna ever stop me. If like no one ever watches this, it's cool. Or watches my podcast, it's cool because I know that person who came on will eventually watch it, and that feeling of watching it again is pretty priceless. Like because you see yourself, your younger self, and your relatives and future generations can see it. I think, yeah, I think like it's time or money, and I feel like and it's an exchange because when one of my guests told me like you at whichever journey you're on and like interviewing all these people, you're not going to realize how much it's going to enrich your life and your personality and your perspective. And I'm like, damn, you're right. Like, just being open to having these conversations or hearing these other stories, it's just like it's a two-way conversation of where me and my guests, we both kind of invest time in each other, which is
No,
dope,
I've
man. So
seen. I've been on your
yeah,
podcast, and I see the way that you structure it, and the way that you're able to get the best out of people that come on. As far as, and it's like it happens in an organic way because the way your format is set up is that you have your guests pick a question, like a number. That's a question. That's like a pre-question that you have already. So you're not just asking random questions. I mean, you're not forcing these random questions on people. They're picking them, right? So it happens upon chance that they come across a question that might be really deep and informative that they would never known that they'll be asked that. That's where I liked it. Like it was very intriguing to me, and it was something that like, yeah, it's just not like something that you ask all the time. It's like not something that you're just looking for the right time to ask. It's something that it just happens organically, and that right there is a step up from a lot of other podcasts that I see. Because as podcasts has gone like gained popularity, very popular lately over the past couple of years. Podcasts before, like a long time ago, they were they're very enjoyable, but they're very like organic type of feeling. It wasn't really like they really didn't have any sponsors or anything like that. It wasn't really corporate, wasn't really in them yet. So now you're seeing all these podcasts that are popping up that they have like money backing them. Like they have corporate money backing them. They have really huge sponsors, and they're very like, how they're very like structured in a way where they don't want to say anything that will affect the money that's coming in or the people that are actually paying them. And I noticed that when I listen to several podcasts, I'm just like, yeah, like they really are not being themselves. And that's what I loved about podcasts. It was actually listening to people be themselves. And it's going on to like, it's becoming like commercialized where it's like, they're not genuine anymore. It's like some of them are really forced, they're really fake, or they're very outlandish. Like they try to say the most wild stuff on there, or they try not to like cuss at all, or they try to not to do certain things because it just or say certain topic they can't talk about certain topics because of their sponsorship or whatever it might be, or they don't want to offend the base that they have already. And so you see that with some people, and that puts me off so much, and I won't listen to it no more. I don't know if you listen to a lot of podcasts, if you understand what I'm saying. It's like there's still the smaller podcasts are just still very genuine and real, and that's something that you cannot replicate.
yo, no doubt, and I agree with you that I think there's these networks now, podcast networks that like pick up the indie artist, and be like be a part of our network, but you gotta kind of like follow these rules or whatever. But we'll pay you good, but you just gotta follow these rules, which is definitely different. I I I can't say I listen to enough podcasts to feel like it's not entertaining anymore, or it just feels forced. I don't know. I haven't felt that, so I don't think I listen to enough podcasts to feel like things are forced. And as much as I would love to like listen, I have a lot of guests who have their own podcasts, and I would love to support them in some way, some fashion. But it's also hard if like you're a podcaster and you do want to like create the content before like it for me it's just like a time crunch that I haven't been able to balance out yet. Like when can I support a friend's podcast and like go through a whole episode and do all that stuff. I haven't figured out that balance for myself yet. So yeah, like all the indie podcasts out there, wish I could listen to you guys right now, but I just haven't at the moment. Not saying I never will, but I need to find it basically. So to answer your question, I don't think I'm aware enough to know. One person that I feel like a lot of people have told me has changed is the Joe Rogan podcast. Just since he came to Spotify, it's a whole different tone. Which I didn't start listening to Joe Rogan until he was on Spotify. and people are all like, "Oh, you missed all the good stuff," and I'm like, "I thought it was still good. I thought it was still entertaining." But since I didn't have anything to compare it to, it
Yeah,
was
I
like,
mean, it changed
oh, you know,
in different ways. I
I
mean,
was just a
it
newbie.
depends
So
too, like on people's political leanings, because that say a lot too on far as like in which ways has he changed. Um, and I think when I used to listen to it like a long time ago, when I first started college, that was like one of the first podcasts I got into, and I really did like, you know, all the craziness that was happening on there. I've learned about so many comedians because of the Joe Rogan podcast, and some of my favorite comedians today is I found them on there, and then also listening to some of like the biggest names. It was like it was hella cool, you know, like that was the thing, and that's what inspired me to make my own podcast one day, because I was always talking about like I want to start a podcast, I want to start a podcast. Like I've always for years and years and years always talked about it. I always tried and failed. I just never went through with it. And I think that he has changed in several ways for good and for better. And once you secure that bag, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You got $100 million to just do podcasts. Like it's insane. Like I can't even imagine like what that might be like just to do podcasts. Like that's insane. Um, that being said, yeah, I don't really listen to his podcast anymore at all. Like I really don't. I don't remember the last time I have. I do listen to a lot of other ones now that are like some of them are kind of like similar to what his style used to be. One of them is Lex Friedman. He's very similar to what Joe Rogan used to be back in the day, and he's just someone that's very inquisitive, very intelligent. Studied at MIT, taught at MIT, and just someone that's just like a brilliant mind that gets on like really interesting, unique people and asks really great questions. And just it's a 3 hour long YouTube show basically. His podcast is like a YouTube show, and I watch it. Like I love watching podcasts like YouTube show stuff. I really there's only a few podcasts I'll listen to that are on Spotify. There's audio only. I'm more of like I love watching shows, and so that for me the biggest thing was like when I had mine was like I didn't want to do audio only. I wanted to do like video as well. Like I like doing both, but I'd rather do a video. I like more of the show type of feel and do it in a Joe Rogan style, which I say that's the style is like open, you know, just a dialogue and stuff, not like really scripted or anything like that. And I know people have their styles and it's fine, but that's just like the style I like. And so I do take a lot of like inspiration from that, but there's other people that I actually like watch and see now, and some of the old guard I just don't care about anymore. Just don't actually follow. But I mean, he's still very popular. I mean, it's not like that changed. He still gets a lot of views. He still gets a lot of people engagement and stuff. But one of the ones that I really do enjoy now is Bobby Lee, Tiger Valley podcast, and he's one of my favorite comedians. And him and his girlfriend, and I think he has like a whole team, and their setup is really cool. Like they have the way they have it set up, like major podcasts now, they have a producer in there, and they also have another person. So they have a producer, and I guess they have like a sound person or whatever it might be. And they usually all the big podcasts have that, and so they have that. They have the live camera feeds going in there. They do like a live show sometimes, or they have the show and they upload immediately to like YouTube and stuff. So they have a whole team behind it. And the way Tiger Belly set up is that they have like 4 cameras. So they have a camera on each one. So they have a camera on the producer, camera on the guest, or if they have multiple guests, they have camera on both the guests. So it's usually 4 screens. And then when someone says something really important, they'll go to like one screen only. And I just love the way they do all that. And to me, that's like a great quality about like shows and stuff. Are there any local podcasts that you really enjoy now that you would like to shout out, or people that have been on your podcast that you like to shout out?
Oh man, there's so many, and I'm afraid I'm going to miss out on people. Damn man, putting me on the spot. But I mean, of course, you guys should check out Escape from San Francisco podcast. There's also the Pick Your Brain podcast, Shmoney Talks podcast, um, the damn Mike the Blasey Blah podcast. Those are all like folks that I know came onto the show. One of my guests actually has the Irish NFL show out in Ireland. If you guys are Irish and you want to support your Irish folks watching the NFL, go check them out as well. Uh, yeah, man. I know there's more, and I feel bad that I can't remember everybody off the top of my head.
No, I'm
But
sorry for putting you on the
yeah,
spot like that, but no,
don't kill me.
you've done like 80 episodes, so you
But yeah,
probably have like 40 people that have podcasts and stuff. So
no, you're good.
it's,
You're good.
there's a lot of that going on. Who are usually your guests, and how do you find them?
Yeah, my guests have been anybody and everybody, which is on purpose. People ask me all the time what my audience is, and I'm saying it's whoever that person, whoever they're gonna share that video to. That's pretty much the audience, unless people who do like meeting new strangers and getting to know people's stories end up watching each podcast. Then it's really meant for those folks. Uh, how do I find my guests? In the beginning, it was through social media, just reaching out to folks I knew. When I felt a little more confident, I started reaching out to just random people, just DMing you, other podcasters around the Bay Area, just asking like, "Hey, you're a podcaster. I think you'd want to come on to another podcast just to chop it up. You already like to talk, which not everybody's comfortable with. So finding other podcasters was I think a good move. And then I started experimenting and doing other stuff, which was one. I don't know if you ever heard of it, called Wildcast. It's like a social media platform specific for podcasters, which was super helpful because that's when I really started reaching out to people I had no idea. And the guests that I got from that have been like people where I did. One dude was like the CFO for Bally's Fitness and what's it called, Crunch Fitness, which I was like, what I like is not knowing anything about them either until after the episode, and then I was like, oh shit, but they were very down to earth, very like open to share their story. But yeah, like that's just one guy. A bunch of other folks have been like different careers, a lot older, a lot more different experiences. So yeah, I think that's been super awesome. Uh, I'm active on Reddit a little bit, or a little bit more, because of podcasting. They have a guest podcast exchange subreddit, which I'd recommend if you ever just want to like find someone for a specific topic. But you can reach out there, and people will comment back and be like, "Hey, I'm interested," and you got a guest right there. And then this new thing I've tried out because of Reddit, it's called the Casting Depot, which is like basically for actresses and actors and also production companies to put out their projects, and it's a way for them to kind of get connected on the site. I just set up a profile for 34 questions, wrote about what it's about, what kind of people I'm looking for, which isn't anything specific, but you could definitely specify who you're looking for to come on, and then they just apply. They apply to come onto the show. So yeah, I feel bad because I don't have enough slots to like just give out. I'm scheduling month to month right now, and as soon as a month is filled up and I get more applications or more people that want to come on, I'm like, I'm sorry, let me contact you when the next month opens up. Which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. Like, I don't know, for you, if you're a guest, you're like, oh, this guy like doesn't have his schedule down, or it's like, oh shit, like, I really need to sign up next time there's an opportunity. So I don't know how people are are viewing it. Not something I'm trying to worry about, because there's always gonna, like, what I'm finding is that since my podcast is really open to anybody, that means I don't have to feel the pressure of like maybe one person's just like, oh, he's not serious, I'm not gonna participate. Like, it's cool. Or I've had people who canceled because after they watched it, they're like, it's not for me. That's cool too, because yeah, I can always just reach out in different forms. But those are
No,
the ways that
that's
I've been doing it,
beneficial
and
a lot. Like I
hopefully
didn't
it
even
can
know any
be
of that.
beneficial
Like
to you or
honestly,
your
all I
listeners.
was by like word of mouth or just asking people I knew from back home, and then meeting people out here, and then just asking on Instagram, just reaching out. I got a lot of people say yes, so surprisingly, and so it was good from there. I had people not respond back, and then I had some people say no, and it's all good. I mean, depending on what we're all trying to do, it's like I understand, try to respect everyone's time and stuff. So I never branch out. I see Wildcats all the time. I see their ads and stuff. But like, yeah, I never went that route yet. Like I was thinking maybe, but I've been so busy that with other things, I just haven't had time to reach out more. But I eventually get to that point. Like eventually, you run out of people to interview, and you will want to expand. San Francisco is not the biggest place, and so I don't know. That's just me though. But I always trying to look for people. Like if someone new, if you know someone that wants to be on a podcast, or if you want to be on a podcast, I always say like, just let me know. Like let me know and we'll go from there. Like I'm open. I'll try to interview as many people as I can as well. Like I'm always down for a cool conversation.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you ever looked it up, and I think by the time we first talked on my
No.
podcast, I hadn't. Um, you know what the world record is for most people interviewed? There isn't one. Like no one's claimed it. But so in my mind, it's like, all right, well, if I can just get a crazy amount of people, I'm gonna write to the Guinness World of Records and be like, yo, man, check out all the episodes I got and conversations, and be like, this is the proof. Can I get this record? And that's all you really have to do is like have proof, and then sign up for it and be like, oh, this record isn't in the books. Can you put this on the database?
How much are you looking to do
That
by
would
the
be
end of
kind
the
of
year?
be kind of dope. And in my mind, it's like, let's go for it. So I think right now, if I'm gonna say it's 6 a week, so 24 a month. Let's say 25, just to keep it round. And there's what, 6 more, so I guess 100 more people. That would 120. I know I didn't do the math completely right, but yeah, around, because I'm being realistic too. A lot of people reschedule, cancel, things happen. In the month of May, I remember I was so hyped in the beginning and also kind of scared, but I had like 51 people for the month of May. But then I would say only like 21, 22 actually went through, because a lot of things were happening, graduations, and just it's May, and things are kind of getting back to normal. So a lot of things popped up for folks. So 22, which is still a good number, but I think I'm going to be averaging about 20 a month. And what I'm really excited for is to try to get on other people's podcasts too. I think that's one big thing for any podcaster. Just make a circuit, like go reach out to other people's podcasts on the Reddit thread for sure. You'll find people looking for guests, and you can just sign up, and they'll be down to have you on, which is exposure. People get to know your story, and yeah, it helps all around, man. I just gotta like get used to. Well, that's one thing, is I was never used to this whole like webcam conversation thing until I realized the trick for me was to put it at an angle where on my screen it doesn't look like I'm just looking at
I was
myself
wondering.
the whole
I was
time.
like, I have to do the angle
Yeah,
too.
that's what's helped out.
Go for
But
that. Yeah,
we'll see.
it was about just having the confidence, right, to just do this and
Yeah.
to go ahead with it is really hard. I'm not really big on self promotion either. I'm not saying I don't. I'm not. I'm very extroverted and I like being around people, so that's not hard for me. I don't mind having attention, but I don't like self promoting and stuff like that. Like that to me is just really hard. It was like I try to be careful on how much I post and stuff like that. I people were telling me you got to post more, like other people that were doing podcasts and stuff, where that I was trying to learn from, and they're like, "Yo, you got to post this amount, and you got to do this and that," and I was like, "I don't want to post that much. I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to. I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be annoying on social media. I don't want people to like see I post too much and so they unfollow me. And so that's kind of hard too. Like I look at people following and unfollowing, and like for a while when I was first started, I was just like, oh no, 2 people unfollowed me. What did I do wrong? Like just stuff like that. And then I just realized like I gotta let that go because I have no control over that. And so you just gotta just do you and do the best you can. Like whatever happens, happens. And so I just had to go back to that and then just be comfortable for whatever I post. If I post something, just post it right. Don't post something at 2 o'clock in the morning and expect people to see it. Yeah, or just be realistic and be smart and strategic about certain things. And engagement will come over time. And and realize what you're truly doing this for. And I know that we're getting towards the end of this podcast. And I just want to say, I think you're the only podcast that I've been on. I'm trying to remember right now. Have I been on anyone else's? No, I think you're the only one. Your podcast is the only one I've been on. So that's what's up. I hope I want to reach
I'm
out more,
honored, man.
be on
Honored
there. I just
to
don't have
be
time to
the
do
first
it.
podcast you've been on.
But you
You
reached
said it
out to
won't be
me,
the
and I
last.
was just like, that was just up. Like, you just straightforward, and I was like, yeah, like why not? Like I'm down. Like I really would like to do that. So it was a really cool experience. I want everyone to go check out your podcast, 34 on Spotify, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Cast, on all the podcast networks out there, and any podcast networks out there that are looking to sign an independent person.
All the cast.
Go get him. Go get him. 34. He's right there for the taking. He's hardworking. He puts in the time. He does great quality. He has a great camera. He has a great mic. He has nice hats. He has good graphics. Like, come on now. Unless you're gonna have to start your own label, you're gonna have to start your own thing, man.
Right on, man. Which I'm not unopposed to, man. Like, I have this workflow that's set up. If I can set this up for more folks to either just like, because I know folks
Mhm.
are doing it, like setting up a podcasting studio where, you have an idea, you could just come into the studio, shoot your thing, and then boom, you have your content. That's not a bad idea. That's something that I would love to set up just to be able to like, help other folks who have either an idea or they know they can reach that audience or want to. Yeah, that's definitely that's the thing, man. Like we were talking about trying to do too much, um, and that yeah, my mind is always like, oh, that's a good idea, and it was just a bad and good thing, like having that irrational confidence in yourself. That's that's one of the
You
things
need that though sometimes,
that
though.
I have as
Honestly,
far as
you need to have it.
trying to
You gotta
make
have
it.
it sometimes.
Uh,
And for
man,
me,
I forgot what I was
I
gonna
know I
say.
needed it in order
Uh,
to do certain things in my life, and so it's not always a bad thing. So just keep up with it.
I got one more thing for you specifically, but also for any of your listeners who are creatives out there. And this is not a plug for what I'm about to say. It's just that I think it's a great opportunity, something that I'm going to be going for. And there's multiple winners, so that's why I think as many people that hear this, and for yourself as well, Linktree has a passion grant fund where they until I think July 17th or June 17th. I can't remember which date, but you just send in a 60-second pitch about what you're passionate about, and there's six first place winners get 20,000, and then it goes down from there. But yeah, there's multiple winners. You have 60 seconds to do a pitch about what you're passionate about, what your project is. There's an opportunity, and I don't think they're the only one. After I seen that one, I was like, oh, I'm gonna look out for other ones, just to who knows. So yeah, Passion Grant Fund
Same.
at Linktree, even though it's not a
So
plug.
I appreciate you coming on.
I wish I was
I
getting
hope
paid by
that
Linktree,
you had a
but
good
I'm
time
not.
on this, and anyone
Yeah,
that
yeah.
listens to this
But
enjoys it, checks out your podcast, your YouTube, your Instagram, your Spotify, your Apple Podcast, whatever you find it on. Again, I hope they really enjoy and listen, like thoroughly listen to what the questions that are getting asked, because I think that a lot of times we don't really pay attention to details. We're just going through the motions in life, and sometimes it takes a real good heart, like to really look hard at yourself in the mirror. You have to stop and just listen to what other people are saying, and you might learn something about yourself or life. There's always something to be learned in this world, and it's never ending. So I appreciate what you do and what you stand for, and the type of person you are, and the type of podcaster that you're becoming. Hopefully one day I'll be able to talk to you when you have your own your podcast studio, and you're on your 1,000th episode.
Yeah, man, we going for it. We going for it. And my bad. I think this is one last thing that I think is super important for anyone listening. I don't think you have this issue, but for any folks out there who are feeling stuck or feeling like they're not sure which way they're going and whatnot, for me personally, and I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life whatsoever, but I needed to find better balance in my life. So whatever can help you find your balance, go for that. And I think you'll be much happier and you'll be feeling productive. And what I mean by balance is the balance of feeling scared and feeling like you're progressing is, I think, what you need in life.